Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram. Welcome you all to the third edition of the Global Festival of Oneness, organized by Indica Moksha to celebrate the life and works of Sri Adi Shankara. We have a Dr. Aravinda Rao for today's talk. So he started his lecture last Sunday on Madhaviya Shankara Vijaya, which is the story of Sri Adi Shankara. The story was stopped there when the crocodile caught the feet of Sri Adi Shankara. He asked his mother for permission to take sannyasa diksha, and the crocodile left his feet when she agreed to it. So we will listen to the continuation of the story of how Shankaracharya found his guru and he became a guru. Before the beginning of his talk, I want to introduce him. He is pretty well known to the followers of Indica Moksha, and he has also been introduced in the last session. But for today's session, some new listeners might have come, so I take a chance to introduce him again. Dr. Aravinda Rao ji is a retired DGP, Director General of Police of Andhra Pradesh. He studied Sanskrit under Mahamahopadhyaya Padmashri Dr. Shri Kullala Shri Ramachandrudu and learned Vedanta under Mahamahopadhyaya Swami Tattvavidananda Saraswati. He has authored many books on Hindu philosophy. He can also speak Sanskrit very well. I make a humble request to Dr. Aravinda Rao ji. Please continue the further narration of the story of Sri Adi Shankara. I welcome him once again and ask him to take this session. Thank you.
Thank you. Om Shuklam Varadharam Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vignopashantaye Ajnanantargahana Patitan Atma Vidyopadeshaihi Tratum Lokan Bhavadava Shikhatapa Papachyamana Muktva Maunam Vatavitapino Mulato Nishpatanti Shambhor Murtisharati Bhuvane Shankaracharya Rupa. Om. Thank you, Sri Bhimashankar, for the introduction, and thank you. So we will start with we start from where we left in the last session. In the last session, as it was told, we just covered what exactly is this text, Madhaviya Shankara Vijayam, what can be our approach to this text, and the birth of Shankaracharya, and the element of the mythological element in the text that also I covered. And there was also a reference, a very, very brief reference to Kumarila Bhatta, who happened to have debated extensively with the Buddhists and then who had defeated the Buddhists in their arguments. And after that, Shankaracharya's birth and how he grew up and his father's death and all those things, they were covered in the second chapter. In the third sarga, the whole, almost the entire third sarga is devoted to Mandana Mishra and Ubhaya Bharati. Mandana Mishra, the incarnation of Brahma, and Ubhaya Bharati, the incarnation of Saraswati. So that is how it is. And Mandana Mishra, in fact, he was supposed to become a sannyasi, become a disciple of Shankaracharya. That is the overall setup. And Mandana Mishra is almost like the Upanayaka of this Kavya. And again, in the fourth chapter, again, we come back to Shankaracharya, how he studied and then how he became a scholar, how he learned the Vedas. All the Vedas, they came to him almost naturally. And thereafter, the episode of that Kanakadhara Sotam, that episode also we saw. And there again, how he wanted to become a sannyasi right from the beginning. And his mother was very disinclined to that. Naturally, she was very unhappy that the boy would be leaving her. But then there was some situation where when he was taking bath in that Purna Nadi, then the crocodile actually signifies samsara. We all know that crocodile, even Gajendra Moksha, crocodile signifies samsara. So crocodile has cut my foot. If you permit me to take up sannyasa, Okay, then the crocodile will leave me. Otherwise, the crocodile will eat me up. You please decide whether I have to live like a sannyasi or whether I have to die here itself. Then the mother had no other option. Mother unwillingly gave permission to him. So that is how. And then again, the makara or the crocodile left his feet. And thereafter, how he went to that Krishna temple and then lifted up the Krishna idol and then put it on a safe place when that was being washed away in the flood of Purna river and all that. Then again, then he left home. So that is exactly where we stopped. Krishna Pratiji Nirato Niragat Nishantat. Very early in the morning, he keeping Krishna Pratiji, Krishna Pratiji. That is in his heart there was Krishna. That is Paramatma. Krishna here means Paramatma. Niragat Nishantat. So he left home. So thereafter, we have to start now. So thereafter, what happened? He was just moving. He just moved. He was looking for a guru. And he was looking at that time. Govinda Bhagavadpada was a very, very well-known, very, very great sage, and he was looking for that. So he passed through several forests, Dakshan, Vanani, Sarito, Nagarani, Shailan, crossing so many forests and then rivers and then towns and then hills and whatnot. Raman, Jananapi. So he saw all those things, but then he saw them as manifestations of Brahma. That is why I'm reading this shloka. Nanu Indrajalika iva adbhutam Indrajalam Brahmaivameva Paridarshayati iva mene. All this is nothing but a manifestation in Brahman. Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. So Shankaracharya already had this knowledge, but then formally he has to go to a guru. That is what we see in every avatar. Though all the Vedas, they are already there in them, but they formally go to a guru. So that is how he travels all the way up to that Omkar Kshetra where Govinda Bhagavadpada was staying in a small cave. And that cave, the opening was only Pradesha Matra. Pradesha Matra is only this much. Pradesha is only this much. So probably he was a very, very thin man, and Shankara was also a boy, and then he has to squeeze through that and go inside. But of course, he didn't go inside. So he located the cave where Govinda Bhagavadpada was staying, and that was on the banks of river Narmada. And Yasya Prapanna Paritoshaduho Guhaya, he stood at the gate. He was so delighted to see that cave, and he praised Govinda Bhagavadpada, just standing at the gate or at the mouth of that cave. He praised Govinda Bhagavadpada. Then he praised, saying, Paryankatam Bhajati Patagendra Keto. That is, you are the very incarnation of Adishesha, and you were born earlier as Patanjali, and you wrote the Mahabhashya. Then now you are born here. You are now here to propagate Vedanta. So I have come to you with Ekanta Bhakti. Prasrumara Mahimanam Prapam Ekanta Bhaktya. So you are the student of Tam Akhila Guna Purvam Vyasaputrasya Shishyat. So he is also narrating the Guru-Parampara. So originally, the Guru, the Parama Guru is Vyasa. That is why we say Vyasa Purnima or Guru Purnima. And Vyasa to Shuka, Shuka to Gaudapada, Gaudapada to Govinda Bhagavadpada, Govinda Bhagavadpada to Shankaracharya. So that is the Guru-Parampara, which is told in a shloka. Adhigata Paramartham Gaudapadan Maharshehe, Adhijigamishu, Esha Brahmasamsthamaham Tuam, Prasrumara Mahimanam Prapam Ekanta Bhaktya. With Ekanta Bhakti, that is, Ekanta Bhakti is unswerving devotion, with undeviating devotion. I have come to you. Then Govinda Bhagavadpada, till that time he was observing Mauna, but now probably he also realized that the proper disciple has come. Then he asked, who are you? Then he said that famous Nirvana Shatkam. Some people say Nirvana Shatakam. It is it is wrong. Unfortunately, some people say Nirvana Shatakam. So that probably either Nirvana Shatkam or it is Dashashloki. We are not very sure. But what he replied according to this Kavya is, Swamin aham na pruthivi na jalam na tejo na sparshano na gaganam na cha tadgunava. So it is somewhat similar to Manobuddhyankara Chittanina aham. I am not the mind, buddhi, I am na chitta na ankara. Then again, I am not the Panchaputas. So now here also, yeah, Kevalosti Paramasta Shivohamasmi. That Kevala, that which remains after negating all, what remains is that Kevala. So that Kevala, that is that Shiva. Shiva is not Paramashiva. Shiva actually means we have to take the symbolic meaning. Shiva means that which is auspicious. The same thing is Shiva is what is Vishnu. According to Vedanta, we don't distinguish between Shiva and Vishnu. Vishnu, you take the yogic artha. You say Vyapnoti, Vyapnoti iti Vishnu. Then again, Vyapanashilaha, that which is all pervading, that is infinite. Then again, Shiva. Shiva is something which is auspicious. That which is auspicious is also all pervading. So that is how we understand it. Yah Kevalosti Paramassa Shivohamasmi. Then Govinda Bhagavadpada was delighted. I am going quite fast because I have to cover 4 sargas today. I told you that there are 16 sargas in the entire Kavya. I stopped somewhere in the middle of the 5th sarga. Then again, from 5th, we are starting from there. And then I have to cover up to the end of the 8th sarga. 8th sarga will take a fairly long time. So I am just running through the text. I have to read some shlokas here and there to give you some sort of taste about the Kavya. It is also a Kavya, not exactly a biography, but it is also a Kavya, a slightly stylized version or a slightly idealized or glorified version. Also we can take. But Shankaracharya deserves all that glory. It is not as though he doesn't deserve. So Shankara, that sort of Kavya, because it is a Kavya, then I have to read a few slokas here and there. So Govinda Bhagavadpada was delighted to see that he realized that he was Shankara, because he also had the premonition that Shankara, in his reincarnation as Shankaracharya, Shiva as the incarnation as Shankaracharya, would come to him as a disciple. So Govinda Bhagavadpada was delighted to get Shankara as a disciple. So he said, I know you are Shankara himself. He says, then here there is a shloka, Sampradaya Paripalaka Bhutya. So though Shankaracharya, by that time he had known the meaning of Vedanta, but then his idea was, he had to set up good standard. He had to be an example for all other people. So he followed the achara or custom, Sampradaya Paripalaka Bhutya. So he worshipped the Guru's feet. So Govinda Bhagavadpada, he didn't come out of the cave. He merely stretched out his feet. Then tasya upadarshitavata sharanau guhaya dware. So he just stretched out his feet through the mouth of that cave, and he just sat inside the cave only. So probably it was such a small cave. Shankara Bhagavadpada, he worshipped the feet of that Acharya. It shows basically the Guru Shishya Parampara, Guru Shishya etiquette in those days. Even now, of course, we touch the feet of our gurus. We definitely touch the feet, and we don't feel it in for a dig. So, Guru Shishya Sampradaya, that is the etiquette. So he followed that etiquette, and now Govinda Bhagavadpada also taught him the Mahavakyas. So in shloka number 103, Brahmatam Upadidesha Chaturbhir Vedashekhara Vachobhihi Amushmai Shankaracharya Chaturbhihi Vedashekhara Vachobhihi Vedashekhara, that is Vedashikha. Vedashikha is Upanishad. That is the something like the Shikha for the Vedas. Veda Shira it is called, Veda Shikha it is called. So what are those four statements? That is Prajnanam Brahma from Rigveda. That is that consciousness that is supreme, and that is that supreme Brahman. Then Aham Brahmasmi. I am not different from that. I am that Brahman. Tattvamasi. You are, that is the Upadesha Vakya, and Aham Brahmasmi is that realization, Upadesha Vakya and Anubhava Vakya. Then again, I am Atma Brahma. What all we see, this whole thing is Brahma. That is from the Atharvana Veda. From 4 Vedas, the 4 sentences. 4 brief sentences which are called Mahavakyas. Why are they called Mahavakyas? Because they talk about the oneness of Jiva and Brahman. So that is why they are called Mahavakyas. Though they are very, very small Vakyas, they are called Mahavakyas because they talk about the unity of Jiva with Brahman. So then again, there are some verses thereafter, how Shankaracharya learned the various intricacies of Vedanta Shastra. Then there are a few verses, not a few, there are fairly lot many verses in praise of Shankaracharya. What was the glory of Shankaracharya? So there are some very, very many shlokas. For example, Yesha Dhurjatihi Abodhamahebham Sannihatya Rudhirapluta Sharma. Now there is a description by Vidyaranya. So his saffron robe, that is Shankaracharya's saffron robe, is compared to the skin of Gajasura, which was worn by Lord Shiva after killing Gajasura. It seems after killing Gajasura, Shankaracharya wore his skin, and which was red with blood. So now this Shankaracharya's saffron robe is something which is similar to that. Dhurjati is Shiva. Abodhamahebham Sannihatya. Abodha is Ajnana. So he is a person, he is the Shankara who had killed the elephant called Ajna, elephant called ignorance, and Ruthiraklutta Charma. Udya Dushna Kiranaruna Shati Pallavasya Kapatena Vibhakti. So it is something somewhat similar to that hide of that elephant, which was worn by Lord Shiva at that time. So some shlokas on this level only. Then again, then again he is again compared with Trivikrama. Vitam Padenaiva Tribhuvanamiha Ekena Mahasa. So Lord Vishnu, he covered the Vishwa with 2 feet. Then again, so he is Shankaracharya is one who has equaled that Lord Vishnu. Then again, there is again some praise, but there is some poem which says that Vishnu, Shiva is greater than Vishnu, and Shankara Bhagavadpada is greater than Shiva. So to that level, that praise is there. Na Bhuteshvasangaha. That is, Shiva is covered or rather surrounded by the Bhutas. But then he is, Shankaracharya is not covered by the Bhutas. That is, he has transcended his identification with this Sharira, which is a product of the 5 Bhutas. Kvachanava Gava Viharanam, Gavava Viharanam. Go Shabdasya, that is, it means also Indriya. So Shiva is having that go, but Lord Shankaracharya is, he has gone beyond that. He is not even having that Gava Viharanam. He doesn't move with the senses. That is, he has gone beyond the senses. Na Bhutya Samsargaha. There is no Vibhuti. So there is no Vibhuti. Na Parichitita Bhogivirapi. That is, there is no element of Bhoga. Bhoga again means 2 meanings. Means 2 things. That is, Bhoga also means serpent. Bhoga also means all pleasures. So Shiva is associated with serpents. And Lord, Shankaracharya, he is not even having all these, bhogas. So like that, he is compared to Lord Shiva, who is said to be greater than Vishnu. So like that, it goes on for some length. So he is a Paramahamsa. He is like the Paramahamsa, differentiating between the Brahma and Jagat. Kshiram Brahma, Jagatcha Neeram, Ubhayam Tad Yogam Abhyagatam. So there is an Itareta Radhyasa. There is Jagat, there is Brahma. There is Itareta Radhyasa, that is, we are superimposing one over the other. And then we are thinking that we are the body-mind complex. So he is this Paramahamsa. Punati Paramohamso Dvijatyagrani. So he is saving the mankind by differentiating between this Brahma and Jagat. So it is the legend. Paramahamsa, we know that it is a legendary swan. So he is a great sannyasi who has done this Atma Anatma Viveka, and who is saving the world with that knowledge. So it goes on like that. I'm skipping right up to 140 or so. I'm skipping all these shlokas. Then there is a small miracle in shloka number 138, 137, 138. There was a great flood at that time in the Narmada river, where the Govinda Bhagavadpada and all other people, many students were also there. Not only one, Agrahara Shata Sambrata Shobhe. There are so many people. There are so many people of that. There was a small Agrahara. And in that Agrahara actually not a one village. It seems there is a group of villages. Agrahara actually means a group of villages. Agrahara Shata Sambrata Shobhe. Sugrahaksha Kuragasa Mahatma. So in that place where the Govinda Bhagavadpada was staying, once there was a great flood in that Narmada. At that time, all the people were perplexed and houses were getting washed away. Then Shankaracharya, he took a pot, he Abhimantriya. So Abhimantriya Karakam is Kamandalam. Tvaramanas tat Pravaha Puratah Pranidhaya. So he bowed to that Pravaha and then he put that pot in that Narmada river. And the entire flood water of the Narmada river was consumed in that pot by his mantra Shakti. So that was one miracle which we see in this text. And thereafter, Govinda Bhagavadpada, then again he was till now he was actually thinking, yes, he is Shankara himself. But then it was confirmed. It was confirmed that it was the Lord Shiva who has come in this form. And now he says, yes, you are the Shankara. In fact, I was told that there would be a disciple of yours who would be performing this miracle. And you are that person. Now I have discovered that you are Shankara. Now you are fit. You are a Parivrajaka. A Parivrajaka should not sit in one place. You have to go, tour. Then we know that Parivrajaka has to tour. Pada Padmarajasadya Punanta Sancharanti Jaganti Mahantaha. Shloka 151 says, Pada Padmarajasadya Punantaha Sancharanti. So they purify wherever they go. Wherever they go, they purify the land. Purify the land means they purify the hearts of the people by teaching. So a Parivrajaka has to tour except during the Chaturmasya period, because that was the Chaturmasya is again during the rainy season. So in that rainy season again, they will be doing Parascharanam and Shastra Adhyapanam to the students, etc. So they don't waste their time at the time. That is for revision of all the Shastras. Then again, revision and prachara, Swadhyaya and Pravachana. These are the two things. Of course, the two things are expected for every person, not only for Parivrajaka, but for Parivrajaka, it was more so. Then again, Guru directed Shankaracharya to undertake tour. Now you have to go to Kashi, he says. Tattva Paddhatim Abhignya Vivektum Satvaram Harapurim Aviviktam. Harapurim. Harapuri is the city of Shiva. Harapuri is the city of Shiva, that is Kashi. So you have to go to Kashi, where you have to go and Bhavadavam Budamalam Tattva Paddhatim Vivektum. That is this Tattva Paddhati, this Advaita Siddhanta, which is going to liberate human beings from this Bhava Dava. Bhava means the birth, it is called birth. Dava means Agni, Davagni. Bhava Davagni means this, it is this, the cycle of birth and death is somewhat like a fire which consumes the human being. So you have to liberate people from this, this fire, great fire. So you go to there, you go there. And again, he also tells about a conversation which he had with Veda Vyasa earlier. Yes, Veda Vyasa had told me that one such a student will come here and then he will perform this miracle, he had told at the time. And he had also said, Govinda Bhagavadpada requested Vyasa. Govinda Bhagavadpada requested at that time, he requested Vyasa, you have to write one commentary on these Brahma Sutras. You have written Brahma Sutras, no doubt, but then they are so inscrutable. So you have to write a commentary on that. So Anyatha Grahana Nigraha Daksham Bhashyamasya Bhagavan Karaniyam. Hey Bhagavan, O Lord, that is Govinda Bhagavadpada to Vyasa. So he is recounting that conversation to Shankaracharya. I had requested Vyasa Maharshi at that time, oh my dear sir, you have to write some commentary which would be irrefutable. That is Anyatha Grahana Nigraha Daksham. That is so irrefutable and then it cannot be misunderstood in any way. So then Vyasa said, oh my dear boy, Vatsa Tvam Tam Shrunu Samastavid Eko Matsamaha Tava Bhavati Shishyaha. Matsamaha Tava Bhavati Shishyaha. That is, you will get one student who will be on par with me, who will be equal to me. Then he who will capture the whole Narmada river in one pot. So that also. So that I have now seen. So he will, then Vyasa also said, so that boy will refute all the bad traditions, all the Durmatani Nirasishyati. Durmatani Nirasana. Nirasana means a refutation of all these false doctrines. So then that is how Vyasa told me. Now you are that person. I see in you all those indications which Vyasa had told. So you will have the divine grace. You have to go and then you have to write Bhashya. Then Shankara Bhagavadpada, so he obeyed the master. He took leave and proceeded to Kashi. Then again, there are some shlokas about how he traveled, etc. Then after reaching Kashi, he worshipped Vishveshwara and stayed there for a few days. Now we enter the 6th Sarga, where the first student of Shankaracharya arrives. The first student of Shankaracharya is Padmapada. Of course, his name was not Padmapada. His name is not mentioned in the text. His ashrama name, that is, once he takes up sannyasa, the name is Sanandana. Sanandanacharya. But then again, for another special reason, which we are going to see, he was called Padmapada later. So the sannyasa namakaranam is Sanandana. So then when he was there, when Shankaracharya was there in Kashi, one boy came and then he said, Prushto Bhavana, who are you? He said, Vipro Guru Mama Gruham Buddha Chola Deshe Yatra Apaga Vahati Tatra Kavera Kanya. So sir, my dear sir, I am from this Chola Desha. So we have to see that in those days, the students travel from south to north and north to south, all that we have to see. because for those who doubt the existence of a civilizational Bharat, so we have to read, if we read our own books, then you see in every book, you take any Purana, you take any old text, you see that civilizational unity from Kashmir to Kanyakumari and much beyond, right up to Gandhara Desha and east, west also. You see that unity of civilization, that into our Indian, the ancient Vedic civilization. So this boy said, "Hey, O Guru, Mama Gruham Buddha Chola Deshe. I am from this Chola Desha. Yatra Apagavahati. Tatra Kavera Kanya. Kavera Kanya is Kaveri, where that Kaveri river flows." So scholars traveled all over the Bharatakhanda to see that. So then again, so you take me as your student. I have come to serve you. I have heard that you are a great master. And Shankaracharya also examines him. So this boy has all the eligibility for sannyasa. So there are a couple of shlokas about this Sanandana also, how he is a viragi for taking up sannyasa, not merely sincerity, but vairagya is very much required. Vairagya is iha amutra phalabhoga viragaha, we see in Shankaracharya's text. So that is, he should not have any longing for the allurements of this world, nor longings for the other world. So yeah, amutra phalabhoga viraga. So there is no interest in all these worldly pursuit or heavenly pursuits. So he found all that. Then he says Abhimukta Kshetra. Yeah. So then he gave sannyasa diksha to him, and Padmapadacharya is said to be the avatar of Vishnu. That is what we also saw in the beginning when all that description was there, where who was born as say who here on earth. So ityuktavantam krupaya mahatma. So then he out of compassion, so he gave sannyasa diksha and gave the name Sanandanakhyam. Sanandana was the sannyasa namadeya of that boy. Then again, many other students also joined, and then some of them they took sannyasa ashrama, and then they became his disciples. Then again, there are some verses which are again praising Shankaracharya. Now there is a shloka which says, Shesha sadhubireva so toshayati in room saptaih kumartharthino. That is 18 shloka number 18. It says, Patanjali wrote Mahabhashya, Valmiki wrote Mahakavya, and then they're full of various alankaras and all that. Then again, Brahma Sutras were written by Sage Vyasa. Then Shankara Deshikastu Kurute Satyah Krutarthanaho. All those things are rather difficult to read. But Shankaracharya's Bhashyas are said to be Prasanna Gambhira. It is Gambhira. At the same time, it is so dignified and so simple and so dignified. Prasanna Gambhira. So pleasant, not even simple, but so pleasant and dignified. Shankara Deshikastu Kurute Sadyah Krutarthanaho. He liberates people instantly. Patanjali's Mahabhashya, you have to read it at length. Then Valmiki, you have to read at length. Brahma Sutras, you have to break your head to understand the sutras. But Shankaracharya, his books, they are so friendly, we can say, reader friendly in those days at least, if not now. So the Sadyah Krutarthanaho, Shankaracharya liberates people through his writings. Then again, Abhimukta Kshetra. Why is it called Abhimukta Kshetra? Because Shivena Kadapi Anirmuktaha. That is, Lord Shiva never leaves that place. Shivena Kadapi Anirmuktaha. So that is why it was called Abhimukta. So then again, there he discussed, debated with many people. Then again, we see, yes, now we come to an important episode. That is his encounter with the Chandala. So it so happened that one day, one hot afternoon, so Antyajam Pati Nirikshya Chaturbhir Bhishanaihi Swabhihi Anudrutam Arat. So there was one Chandala was coming with the 4 ferocious dogs. Chaturbhihi Bhishanai Swabhihi. And we know that the old Kashi, the streets were so narrow. When he was walking, when Shankaracharya along with his disciples was walking towards the Ganges, that gentleman came. Then he said, Shankaracharya said, Gacha Duram ititam nijagada. Just move away, Gacha Duram, he said. Then that man, he immediately said, Advitiyam Anavadyam Asangam Satya Bodha Sukha Rupam Akhandam Amananti Shataso Nigamanta Tatra Veda Kalana Tava Chitram. Oh, my dear sir, I am surprised You know that Brahma is something which is Advitiya. Advitiya is non-dual. There is no second. Ekameva Advitiyam. Apart from that, there is nothing else. You and I are only that. Then again, Anavadyam, Nirmalam, that is Yesha Atma, Apahatapatma, all these, the commentators, they mention all these. Then again, Asanga. Asanga is Asangohyayam Purusha. That is, we have Sangha with all Punya Papa, whereas Brahman has no Sangha with any such thing. Then again, Satya Bodha Sukham Akhanda Rupam. That is what Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. So that is what all the Shrutis say. All the Nigamantas, all the Upanishads, they say. But then Veda Kalana Tava Chitram, and you are perceiving that difference. You are seeing difference. How is that Veda Buddhi has not left you? So, of course, here the traditional commentators, they say that this was actually a test by Shiva to see whether all these old samskaras have disappeared or not. Because when you take up some sannyasa, a sannyasi is supposed to go beyond the varna and ashrama. He is called Ati Varnashrami, one who has transcended this varna and ashrama. So, if one has to really transcend the varna and ashrama, all the samskara shesha, all those latent impressions, some vasanas will be there. Oh, I am a Brahmana, I am this, I am a Veda Pandita, I am superior. So some such feeling will be there. All those things have to disappear. If he is a real Parivrajaka, all those things have to disappear. So this is actually a sort of test, they say. But we do not know. We can take it as a test, or we can even take it as a chance encounter with a Chandala. In fact, if we take it as a chance encounter with Chandala, probably it may be better, because if we take it that Lord Shiva had appeared and all that, even then it further strengthens our argument. It further strengthens our argument that argument of Chandala. That is how God desired human beings to behave. So that is how we can understand. Even if he were to be an ordinary Chandala, or even if he were to be God also, even if he were to be God, we have to take it that God wanted us to behave so. And if he were to be real Chandala, it also shows the intellectual honesty of Shankaracharya, that Shankaracharya really immediately admits, yes, I made a mistake. I should not have made any difference. So now this is the occasion where he is supposed to have said that very famous Manisha Panchakam. So there are some slokas by the Chandala here, where Gacha Duram iti Dehamutaho Dehinam Parijihirshasi Vidvan. Oh, my dear sir, you are asking me to go away. Are you asking this Deha to go away? Or are you asking the Dehi to go away? Vidyate Annamayato Annamayam Kim Sakshanasche Tipungavas Sakshi. Annamaya, with this Annamaya Kosha may be different, but then Sakshi is one and the same. Sakshi, is there any difference in the Sakshi? And then he also gives the example of how sun's light, sun's rays, they reflect in hundreds and hundreds of water bodies, on hundreds and hundreds of water bodies. And then Bimbite Ambaramanau, Suranadyam, Antaram Kimapinasti Surayam. Yes, Ambaramani is the Lord that Surya. Surya falls on Ganges, which is a sacred river. And there also there is a Pratibimba. And again, Surayam. Sura is Suranadi on one side and Sura Bhandam on another side. Sura Bhandam is that liquor pot. In that liquor pot also, the same Pratibimba is there. So whether it is Suranadi or Sura Bhanda, there is Pratibimba is same. So similarly, Brahmana Shvapacha Veda Vichara, where is there in Pratyagatma? Pratyagatmani Katham Tava Yukta. In Pratyagatma, there is no Veda like Brahmana and Shvapacha. So how can you make that difference? So like that, there are a few shlokas by that person also. Then again, Shankaracharya, he immediately acknowledged it. Yes, he says, Satyameva Bhavata Yadidanim Pratyavadi Tanubrut Pravara Etat. He is calling him Tanubrut Pravara. You are great among Tanubrut means one who has embodied person. You are great among the embodied persons and best among the embodied, we can say. Antyajoyamiti samprati buddhim santyajami vachasa atmavidaste. So I am just giving up that idea that you are Antyaja. You are Antyaja and I am Agraja, that sort of buddhi. I am immediately leaving. And now he tells certain shlokas. Shankaracharya also tells that Manisha Panchakam like Brahmaiva Hamidam Degacha Sakalam. Janmatra Vistaritam. So all those things. So he says, Bhati yasya tu jagat drudabuddhes sarvamapyanisham atmatayeva sadvijostu bhavatu swabhachova vandaniya iti me drudhanishtha. So when a person who is the entire one who has a vision that the whole universe is Atma, nothing but manifestation of Atma, whether he is a Dvija or a Swapacha. Swapacha means one who cooks a dog and then eats a dog. So he is a Vandaniya, Itime Drudhanishta. So he is the person who has to be respected. Then again, the same consciousness which is there in Vishnu Mukhe, Yachitis Purati Vishnu Mukhe, that consciousness which is there in Vishnu, Sa Puttikavadhishu. So that same consciousness is there right down to the Patangika. Puttika is a small mosquito. Patangika, Patanga is a bigger one. Patangika, Alparthe. So that is a mosquito. In a small mosquito also, the consciousness is there. Or even an ant or a mosquito or whatever. So Naiva Drushyamiti yasya Manisha. All this thing is Drushyam. A person who realizes that all this is Drushyam. He is Pulkaso Bhavatu Vasa Gururme. Whoever he be, he is my Guru. So like that Manisha Panchakam is the context here. So Shankara did not advance any arguments that no, there is a Vyavahara Dasha, the present day traditionalists. They do make some, unfortunately, they advance these arguments. No, that may be at the level of Ativarnashrami, but at all our levels, we have to follow some distinction. So, but then we have to understand that this is something which divides the Hindu society, which is applicable even now. This Manisha Panchakam is very, very relevant even now. And to get over so many tensions and then so many social tensions, we can say. So then again, after this, of course, the text says, when Shankaracharya acknowledged this, that person, Chandala disappeared, and in his place, that Lord Shankara was seen. So that, of course, we can take it as real, or we can also take it as a sort of poetic way of describing. Or we can say that Shiva, he saw Lord Shiva in him. We can also say figuratively that Shankaracharya saw Lord Shiva in him. Oh, he is Lord Shiva who has come to teach me this lesson, who has come to test me, to see that all my all those vasanas, they disappear. So Shankaracharya took it in that way. So there is also a wonderful sloka here, which is telling the relationship between Jiva and Ishvara. Dasasteham deha drushtiyasmi shambho, jatasteyam sho jiva drushtya tridrushte. He is saying, we are familiar with one sloka, which is attributed to Anjaneya. Lord Rama seemed to have asked Anjaneya, what is your self? Then he said, Deha buddhya tu dasosmi, jiva buddhya tvadam shakaha. Exactly similar sloka is here. Dasasteham deha drushtiyasmi shambho, O Shambho. From the point of view of this gross body, I am your dasa, your servant. And jiva drushtya, from the point of view of being a jiva, I am your amsha. Then again, sarvasyatman atma drushtya tvameva. Atma drushtya, I and you are one and the same. So that is what Shankara is said to have told at that time. Then again, after that, Lord Shiva also said, yes, you have attained that Brahmatma Bhava. Asmadadi Padavim Abhajastvam. Yes, you have attained that Brahmatma Bhava. Now there is a total disappearance or eradication of all this Veda Buddhi, all this difference that you, me, etc., high, low, etc., differences, all the Veda Bhava, it is gone. And that is actually a prerequisite for all the commentaries. In fact, a person who is having all this agenda in mind, a person who is having an agenda, he can't write a universal text. A person with no agenda only can write a universal text. So that is what he says. Shodhita tava tapodhananishta. Shodhita, I have examined you, and now all this Veda Bhava it is now eradicated in your mind. Now Shiva directs him to write a commentary on this Brahma Sutras. Tatra Mudhamataya Kalidoshat Vitra Veda Vachanodbalitani Pashyakani Arachayan. So there are many people who have studied a little bit of Veda, and then they quote a few sentences Vitra Veda Vachanodbalitani. They take support of a couple of sentences from Veda here and there, and then they have written some bhashyas. Then Dushyatam Upagata Kaishit. They are actually condemned. Those commentaries are actually condemned by the learned people. So you have to write Sutra Bhashya Madhuna Vidadhatu Shrutyupodbalita Yuktyavyuktam. So Shruti and Yukti, you combine this Shruti and Yukti. It should not only be in accordance with the Vedic philosophy, it should also be validated by logic, because it has to withstand any argument. So that is what we see. Shruti, Yukti, and Anubhava. These three things are the characteristics of Shankaracharya's commentaries. then after that, Shankara, the Lord Shiva disappeared. Then there are a few sentences, there are a few shlokas again, praising Shankaracharya about how he debated with several people, and then how he brought them to this Advaita view of thinking. Then again, there he thought Kashi was a very, very busy place. In those days also, Kashi was a very busy place. So he had to go to a quiet place so that he can quietly concentrate and then write the Bhashya. So thinking that, then Kashi Purat Niragamat Tattva Vikasa Bhaja. So in order to contemplate in a much cooler way, in order to contemplate in a much undisturbed manner, he wanted to go to Badari Kashrama. That is Badri, now the present Badrinath. Then Shantam Disham Devanunam Vihaya. He proceeded towards the Shantam Disham, that is towards in the northern direction. So he bathed in the sacred rivers on the way. Then again, the route was quite tough. That route also, there is a description of that route. Then again, there he held discussions with various local scholars. There, Badrikashrama was also a place where there were a lot many scholars. It was a quiet place. We know that Badrikashrama is in such a secluded location compared to Kashi. Even today, it is secluded. So, say Sadvadashe Vayasi Tatra Samadhinishtai Brahmarshibhi Shruti Shiro Bahudha Vicharya. Shruti Shiraha is Upanishads. Bahudha Vicharya. That is, he debated, discussed with them from several points of view, repeated discussions. So it was his 12th year, Sadvadashe Vayasi, that is in his 12th year, he held discussions with all the local sages there, Brahmarshibhi, and repeatedly held discussions with them. And then, Bhavyam Gabhira Madhuram Hanatisma Bhashyam. So he wrote Gabhira Madhuram, very deep, at the same time very sweet, Gabhira Madhuram Bhashyam. Then again, not only that, he is also said to have written at that time Gita Bhashyam, Mahabharata Sarabhutasa Vyakarod Bhagavatisha Gita. Then again he wrote Gita Bhashyam, then Samassujatiya, similarly Nrusimhatapaniya Bhashyam, then again Granthan Asankhyan Tadanu Upadesha Sahasrikadin, that is Upadesha Sahasri, and very many such books he wrote. Then again we come to a small incident where this Sanandana is again going to be Padmapada now. So there was a case means there was an instance of jealousy among students. That's Padmapada, that Sanandana was so devoted to Shankaracharya. He was doing all his services and he was so close. And not only close, he was such a studious student, let us say. And Shankaracharya naturally preferred him. So there was some jealousy among students. So then one day, just to show Padmapada's importance, when Shankaracharya was on one side of the river and Padmapada was on the other side of the river, he just called him out, "Hey, come quickly." Then Abhrapaga Aparatatastamamam Kadachit Akarayat Nigamashekara Deshikendra. That is one day when Sandara Abhrapaga Aparatatastam. So Aparatatastam, he was on the other side of the river. Then he called out immediately, come. Then without thinking, that man just walked along and then came on the water. And there were lotus flowers which are coming up and giving some support to that person. He just walked over water, and at every step, some lotuses sprung up and then they gave support. So Padmani Udanchayanti Tasya Pade Padesma. Padmani Udanchayati. That is all those, that Salilam Yusindhu, that was lake, or not lake, that river, it was producing this, this Padma, lotuses at every step. So then from that time, he was called, then Sau Aslishya, Padma Sadana, Padmapada, Namapadam Vyatanit. So he hugged him and then said, "Yes, you are a Padmapada Namadeyam." Then again, we come to a small debate with a school called Vashupata. Pashupatas again, the followers of Shiva. Of course, Pashupata, the Pashupata, Maheshwara, there were various shades of Shaivas. Pashupatas, their philosophy is that Jagat, and they also accept that there is a Jagat for which Ishvara is the Nimitta Karana. We know that there is what is called a Nimitta Karanam and Upadana Karana. A simple example is clay and pot. Clay is Upadana, that is the material cause, and the potter is the Nimitta Karana. So for this Jagat, the entire Jagat is like clay. It is the Upadana, the Prakriti is the Upadana Karana, and Ishvara is the Nimitta Karana. Then again, Karyam and Karanam are two different things. Their philosophy in brief. And who is this Jiva? Jiva also is a Karyam. Jiva, through his exercises in yoga, etc., personal purification, he attains a similarity with Ishvara. So that is what is moksha. He attains similarity, and then he says, Shivena Sahamodate. We read some slokas also. So he is there sitting in Kailasa and then doing bhajana for Kailasam of Shiva. So that is their philosophy. Then Vedanta says Karyam and Karana are not two different things. If we say that that Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, that is the cause, and that is manifesting as the whole universe, then Karyam and Karanam, they cannot be, Karanam and Karyam cannot be two different things. Whatever is there in Karanam, they completely, they're just, Karyam also, they have the same thing. Yatha Pinde, Yatha Brahmande, we say. So like that, like the gold and bangles, gold and ornaments, that is the standard example given in Vedanta. So this Brahman is both the material cause and the Brahman, not directly, of course, Brahman through the intermediacy of Maya. So becomes the material cause and also the efficient cause. That is Abhinna Nimitta Upadana Karanam, we say. But Brahman does not transform. Brahman doesn't transform, but he appears as that universe. He, not even he, but it appears as the universe. So, and Jiva is something which is nothing different from that Brahman. Jiva is actually the essence of Jiva is that Chaitanya. But we do not know. We identify ourselves with the body-mind complex. And because of that, we need some Shastra, we need a Guru to tell us, oh, you are not this body, you are not the body-mind complex, but you are something different from that. So that is how there was a debate with these Pashupatas. Then there are a couple of slokas which I can read very, very fast. I will go through fast. Then he says, Advitiya Nirata Sati Bhede Muktihi Isha Samataiva Katham Syat, in the sloka number 74, 75, 76. There is a debate, a small, brief debate. That is, if you say that there must have been a long debate, but in this Kavya, he has given only some 3-4 slokas. So if you say that that Jiva and Brahma are totally different, and how can moksha be similarity with that Ishvara? You are just saying that it is similarity. And if you say that by doing dhyana, he is becoming equal. By doing dhyana, he becomes equal. But dhyanam and upasana, they are also karma. And whatever is achieved by karma is going to be limited only. You cannot achieve something by karma which is permanent. Whatever is achieved by karma is something which is limited, which is in proportion to whatever karma you have done. So how can you hold that view? Then again, you say that Ishvara gunas, they come to Jiva. But that Ishvara, the real nature of Ishvara is something which is Niravayavi. Niravayavi means something which is infinite, where there are no parts in that. If there are parts, there are gunas, there will be some qualities, etc., which can be transferred. In infinity, in that Niravayavi, where are the gunas and how do those gunas come to this being? So like that, there are some arguments with those people, whether all those gunas, they come to him, like a fragrance from a flower. If you are standing near a flower garden, in a flower garden, fragrance from flowers, they come to us. Are they coming like that? So like that, there is some debate, which I am skipping. So ittam tarkaihi kulisa kathinaihi. So with such tough arguments, so he convinced them, yes, that is your argument, that argument is wrong. Then so even very many people, they came to his way of thinking. Vedanta Kantara Krita Prachara. So he was like a lion. He was like a lion among all those people. He says, Vedanta Kesari, Maharshi Kantirava Ullalasa, Bhayankaro, Vadi Matangajana. All of the people, they were like the elephants, Vadi Matangaja. All those Vadi, all those arguers, or rather Purupakshis, they were like elephants. and like a mighty lion, Shankaracharya was there. So like that, there are some commentary, there are some slokas like that. Then again, people, they were very much impressed, and people just started wondering, oh, he's such a great man. And Shankaracharya, he when this the Vedic philosophy was almost going down. It is Vedic philosophy is compared to an old cow, Jarad Gavi, Ahobata Jarad Gavim, Anagha Bhashya Suktamrutaihi, Apankayati Shankaraha, Pranata Shankara Sadara. So the Shankaracharya, Sage Vyasa had created a mighty structure. And that mighty structure is now, it is like a Gomata, an elderly Gomata. That elderly Gomata is now caught in Pankam. Pankam is that quagmire. And from that quagmire, Shankaracharya is lifting it up and then cleaning it by writing that Jarad Gavim Anagha Bhashya Suktamrutaihi. He is washing it off, all the pankam, all the dirt. Shankaracharya is washing off by the Sukta Amruta, by the nectar of his Bhashya Panktis, by the nectar of the wonderful Bhashyam, by the commentary. He is washing that pankam of pankam from the body of the Jarad Gavi and making it fresh. So like that, there are some slokas which describe Shankaracharya, the greatness of that commentary. And all other commentaries, they vanished. Another sloka, number 93, which says that all vachak kalpalata prasuna sumanas sandoha sandohana. So all those things which were unfortunately they had come up. You see, all those commentaries, they were all like they were all like a sort of curse on Shankar Saraswati, goddess Saraswati. Katham Ambujasanavadhu Daurabhagya Garbhikuta. Ambujasanavadhu is Brahma's concept. Brahma's wife, that is Saraswati. Her Daurbhagya Garbhikuta, because of her misfortune, all such bhashyas had come. Now Shankaracharya's commentary had eliminated, all those false commentaries which were so hollow, which were actually an insult to Goddess Saraswati. And because of the misfortune of Goddess Saraswati, all those things had come. So that is how this some slokas which describe the greatness of Shankara Bhashyam. And why is this Vyasa, why is Bhashyam, Brahmasutra Bhashyam held so high? That also a couple of words. We see Vyasa Maharshi wrote only Vyasa Maharshi or Badarayana. Again, there is a debate which we will not enter. So he wrote only Brahmasutras. And Brahmasutras, they are rather inscrutable. If you see only Sutra, it is rather inscrutable. And Shankaracharya's role was to cull out, or rather take out all evidence from the Shrutis. Shruti, it has to be commentary, has to be based on Shruti and also Yukti. He has to take out all the sentence. There should not be any contradicting sentence in any Shruti, because there is a Ekavakyata, unity of thought in all the Shrutis. So he has to consider whatever Purva Paksha is there, whatever Purva Paksha means, that is whatever opposing view is there. And again, weigh the evidence. See, Brahmasutra, Bhashya, there are so many adhikaranas, and every adhikarana is somewhat like a judgment. Adhikarana, in fact, adhikaranika actually means a judge. So adhikarana is actually, which is a topic, a point in question. So there is a center, there is a point, there is a topic, there are opposing views, there is evidence on this side, there is evidence on the other side. He has to weigh the evidence, and he has to be somewhat like a judgment writer. So the law is there, law text may be there, but then there is a case law, there is elaborate case law, and then there is a lot many judgments. So discussing various pieces of evidence. So Shankaracharya had to do like a very competent judge. He has to weigh all the evidence, and then he has to counter the Purva Paksha very effectively. And then he has to advance some proper arguments which are in tune with the logic also. So both logic and Shruti, they have to be followed. So that is the importance of Bhashyam. So that is what is told in one sloka, 107. You see, Vyaso darshayati sma sutra kalitan nyayauharatnavali. Vyasa had merely shown those, given those sutras. Artha alabhavashat, because people could not understand them. Artha alabhavashat na kairapi budhaihi eta gruhita shiram. Many people were not able to understand. Then Arthaptya Sulabhabhi Abhihi Adhuna te Mandita Panditaha. Now all the Panditas, they are being Manditaha means they are actually, this Bhashyam is somewhat like a gift. It is somewhat like an ornament to them. It is somewhat like an ornament to them which is gifted to them. Then Vyasasya Apakrutarthatam. In fact, the mission of Vyasa was also fulfilled. Vyasaha cha Apakrutarthatam. So Vyasa also got Krutarthata. Then, so that is how Vyasa's mission was fulfilled. So that is how we come to the end of this sixth sarga. So I think we do not know the time. Come to the end of the fifth sarga. Then again we come to the seventh sarga. In the seventh sarga, we see that Sage Vyasa, Shankaracharya meets Sage Vyasa. So we know that Sage Vyasa belongs to a totally different time. It belongs to a totally different time. Then how is it that what is shown here? It is again a poetic way, a poet's liberty, we can say, to show that Shankara's commentary is validated by Vyasa. Shankaracharya, he has understood the heart of Sage Vyasa. So that is how we have to take it. So one day when Shankaracharya was teaching this Brahma Sutra Bhashya, Sadyatu Shariraka Sutra Bhashyam Adhyapayan Abhrasarit Samipe. Abhrasarit is Ganga. Just on the banks of river Ganga. In olden days, in fact, banks of river Ganga also, there was a big tree. Under the tree, they used to sit, and then they used to have a class. There were no classrooms, probably. Most places, of course. So one day he was teaching Brahma Sutra Bhashya to students on the banks of this river. Then an elderly person came. And then he asked them, what is it you are teaching? Then the students said, "Oh, our teacher, you see, is a great teacher. He is teaching Brahma Sutra Bhashya." Then Tama Bravit Bhashyakrit Agriyavachyam, Agriyavacham, Sutrartha Vidhyostu Namo Gurubhya. Then he asked this Shankaracharya, that elderly gentleman, you tell something about this. Atha Ekam Ucharaya Paramashamyatehe. Arthaswam yadi Vetta Sutra. You please tell one sutra and then try to explain to me. Then Shankaracharya, he recalled his gurus, Namo Gurubhyaha. So he recalled his gurus. That again is Sampradaya. When you are debating with somebody, you say Namo Gurubhyaha. So Sutrajnataham Krutirasti no me. I am not very proud that I have written this Bhashyam, etc. Okay, you ask me anything. So he said, you tell any sutra and then explain. So Shankaracharya said, you ask any sutra. Then he asked for one sutra. Tadantaretyadikamasti sutram bruhi edadartham. There is one sutra, Tadantara Pratipatti Adhikaranam. There is one Adhikaranam also, which talks about what happens to the jiva when the Linga Sharira transfers from one body to another body. It's not as though the jiva goes. It is the Linga Sharira which goes from one body to another body. Jiva, of course, in a sense, because jiva actually means antahkarana avachinnam chaitanyam jiva. That is consciousness which is associated with this antahkaranam is jiva. And this antahkaranam goes to another body. So when this antahkaranam goes to another body, what happens? There is one sutra which says Tadanantara Pratipattau Ramhati Samparishvaktaha Prashrani Rupanabhyam. There is a very important sutra which talks about the passage of the jiva, or rather antahkarana, the linga sharira, from one body to another body. So there, the point is, the indriyas, the sense organs are all dead, and then they are here only. The eyeball, and then the shrotra indriya, all this tvagendriya, all these indriyas are there only. And what exactly goes? It is not the indriya which goes, but the karanam for the indriyas. The karanam for the indriyas are the sukshma bhuta, 5 elements. They are in the subtle form and also gross form. In the subtle form, they are responsible for the origination of these indriyas. So they go to the other body and not the gross indriyas. So Sushma Bhuta Sushmas, because the indriyas will be available in whatever is the next body. If it is an elephant body, elephant indriyas are there. If it is a donkey's body, there is donkey's indriyas are there. So the indriyas are available even in the other body, and they need not be carried. It is like a traveler going from place to place. He need not, whatever is available locally, he need not carry. So he will go and buy them there. So it is like that. So on that, there was a debate. There was a debate and which went on for a long, long time. Anudya sarvam phanitam tadiyam sahasradha tirthakaraschakanda. So whatever Shankaracharya said, that gentleman was demolishing it. That elderly gentleman was demolishing it in 100 ways. And Shankaracharya was again demolishing it in 1,000 ways. Sahasrada, whatever he Shatashaha, Shatadha Vikalpya. In hundreds of ways, this old elderly gentleman was protesting or rather opposing. And in thousands of ways, Shankaracharya was defending. So that is how it went on. Dinashtakam Vakkalahu Jajrumhe. For 8 days, there was a debate. And when there was a big debate, then again, Padmapada, he detected, yes, this gentleman is not an ordinary person. He is Sage Vyasa himself. So Shankara, we see that Padmapada has that intuitive knowledge. So he tells Shankaracharya, oh, you are Shankara yourself, and he is nothing, no other than Sage Vyasa, again, Vishnu Rupa. So there cannot be any resolution. You are two of you are debating. So it is like that. Then Shankaracharya, he bowed to that gentleman. Itidam akarnya vachu vichitram. Then Shankaracharya wanted to see, he was curious to see Sage Vyasa. Then Krutanjalistam prayatah pranamya vabhasha vanim navapadya rupam. Then Shankara Vyasa, he also realized, yes, that the gentleman, no, Shankaracharya realized that the person who had come was no other than Sage Vyasa. Then he requested Vyasa to appear in his real form. So Vyasa appeared in his real form. There are a few shlokas describing the personality of Sage Vyasa, what was he having, and then how he was having that garland of Saptadhikachadara Vimshati Muktikadhyam Satyasya Murtimeva Vibhratam Akshamala, that Akshamala that for Japa. So that Akshamala having 27 beads he was having, and then his how he was, what sort of dress he was wearing, and all those things. There is a description. Then Mune Purana Nitashastra. Yeah. So by that time, he says, Shankaracharya, he praises him. Hey Dvaipayan, Swagatamastu Tubhyam, Yuktam Tadetat. Yeah. You have written all these things. Paropakara Vrata Dikshitatva. What is the purpose of Vyasa in writing all these texts? That is for the welfare of the society, for the welfare of the people, for the good of the humanity. Paropakara Vrata Dikshitatva. You wrote all this for the good of humanity. Then you have written Mune Puranani Dasha Ashta Sakshat Shrutyagragarbhani Sudushkarani. Shrutyagragarbhani. That is the meaning of the Upanishads has been passed on through the Ashtadasha Puranani. Then again, Krutani Padyadvayamatra Kartum Konama Shakmoti Sangatartham. You wrote all these Puranas. Who will be able to do such massive work? Then you have classified the Vedas. Vedarnavam Yatiyutam Vedadhas Chaturdha. You have classified the Vedas to help the dull-witted people of this Kali Yuga. Mandaha Kalau Kshitisura Janitaraha. So all the Kshitisura, all these so-called learned people will be mandas. They will be dull-witted people. So in order to help the dull-witted people, you have classified the Vedas also. And so the contribution of Sage Vyasa is briefly discussed. Why briefly? In a fairly elaborate manner, it is discussed in several verses. So we see that there is a continuous process of this, what can we say, some sort of decay and rejuvenation. What Vyasa said, there was a decay. Prior to Vyasa, there was some decay, probably. And Vyasa, probably there was no decay at that time. There was such massive texts everywhere. So Vyasa brought them in one particular organized manner. So thereafter, there was some decay. There was again the rejuvenation. Again, even now we see that maybe people like, say, Vivekananda, etc., right down to people like Vivekananda and all that. So there is rejuvenation going on. Now with the technology, we see further rejuvenation. Then, so he says, Shankaracharya praises him, you are like the ocean. From you, the moon named Mahabharata originated. He says, Bhagavat Apanudan Bharata Sheetarasmihi. That moon called Mahabharata. So he emerges from you. Apurvo Bhagavat Payodhe. You are Payodhi. You are like a Shirabdi. from you that Mahabharata has come out. Then, like the moon drives away darkness, you drove away ignorance from our minds. And then you have produced so much of literature. Tvattah Puranani cha sambhabhuva sarvam tvadiyam kalu vangmayakyam. The entire Vangmayam is yours. That is, whatever anybody says, it is only after you say. That is why we say, it is said in the Mahabharata, yadi hasti tadanyatra. Whatever is here, it is there elsewhere. Then again, there is also a saying, Vyasochistam jagatrayam. Whatever is there, whatever has been produced later is Vyasochistam. Something which has been touched by Sage Vyasa. So then there are some more verses in praise of Sage Vyasa. Then again, Vyasa also appreciated Shankara Bhagavadpada. He says, you are on par with us. He says, there is a nice sloka, 33, sloka number 33. Tvam asmadadeh padavim gatohu. You have come on par with us, with people like us. Akhanda pandityam abodhayante. Then abodhayante. Shukarshivat pritikarosi vidvan. Hey vidvan, you are dear to me like Shuka. Shuka is his own son. So I like you, like my own son. Then pureva shishyai sahama brahmiswam. Yeah. Then again, you have to move. You have to move again. Propagate this Advaita, Vedanta. I heard about you in Kailasa. He also says, Shankara Vyasa says, I heard about you in Kailasa. And then, in fact, actually, I heard about you means your Bhashyam in Kailasa. In fact, I wanted to personally come and see. Then Shankaracharya very humbly, bows to him. And so, Bhashya Pradipena Maharshimanya Nirajanam. Yeah, whatever I have written is somewhat like a small light in front of some great sun. Suppose somebody wants to show sun with the help of a light. My Bhashyam is like that. So it shows the humility of Shankaracharya. Then he says, I am in your Shishya Parampara. I am in the same Shishya Parampara. Bhavat Prasishya Vyapadesha Bhaja. Bhavat Prasishya. Your Shishya, Prasishya, then again that Shishya. So like that, I am in your Shishya Parampara. And again he says, Gambhirya Gunabhiramam. That is Prasanna Prasada Gambhirya Gunabhiramam. So that is Prasanna Gambhira Bhashyam he wrote. Then Sutranukari Mriduvakya Niveditartha. What is Bhashyam? Bhashyam is Sutrartho Varnyate Yatra. So you are describing the meaning of that Sutrartha. Then Padaihi Sutranukarivihi. You have to explain every word of that Padam, and then you have to use words. You have to explain those words in the proper sense. Swavakyani Chavarnyante. Bhashyam Bhashyavido Viduhu. This is from the commentary. So Bhashyam is you are explaining every word of that sutra, seeing the Purva-Paksha and all evidence, and then you have to write somewhat like a judgment. So it is the Adhikarana. So then again, then a few more slokas I skipped. Then Vyasa, now we come to one more important turning point in Shankaracharya's life. That is, he tells, I have written so many texts and all that. Now I want to leave. I wish to leave my body. Shankaracharya tells Sage Vyasa, I have written the Upanishad Bhashyam also, and I have written Veda, this Brahma Sutra Bhashyam, and I have also taught it to so many people. Muhurta matram manikarnikayam vidhehi sadvatsala sannidhanam. Then he says, Paramayushonte tyajami yavad vapuhu vapuhu adya heyam vapuhu adya tyajami. That is this lowly body, this body, I want to leave. I have nothing more to do. Then Vyasa says, no, you have a lot more to do. Iti tam akarnya vacho vishintya. So he says, no, you still have a lot of work to do. Anirjitas santi vasundharayam vaya budhaha keshid udara vidya. There are lot many great scholars who are there, who have to be convinced by you, who have to be defeated by you. Anirjitas santi, anirjitah, they are undefeated so far. That people like Mandana Mishra, budhaha keshid udara vidya, very highly learned people are there. So you will have to go. So you can't end your life here. So Shankaracharya is now 16 years. We have seen that Shankaracharya's, in the beginning, Shankaracharya's lifespan was 8 years. By his own tapashakti, he got 8 more years. That is when crocodile caught him and then crocodile left and all that by his own tapashakti. So he got 8 more years. So that is described in sloka number 55 of this 7th sarga. Ashtavayamsi vidhinata vavatsadattani. So vidhi, that is, originally Brahma had given you 8 years. Then again, 8 years you had earned by your own tapasshakti. Then again, bhuyopi shodasha bhavantu bhavajñayate. And by the order of Shiva, you are getting 16 more years. So Vyasa is just conveying that I am not giving. Lord Shiva has given bhavajñaya. By the order of Shiva, you are getting 16 more years. So bhuyacha bhashyamidam aravicendrataram. And your bhashyam will be there, or Ravicendrataram, as long as the sun and moon will be there, so long your bhashyam will be there. That is, basically, truth is something which will be there always. Bhashyam, which is telling about Brahmajnanam, and Brahmajnanam is one and the same, whatever may be technology, whatever may be social change. So this will be there, this will be relevant till the end of creation. So you write and debate. You say Vakyehi Purushva Ujjita Veda Buddhin Advaita Vidya Paripanthino Anya Advaita Vidya Paripanthina. Those who are opposed to this doctrine of non-dualism, you have to debate with them, and you have to Ujjita Veda Buddhin. You have to ensure that they give up their Veda Buddhi. Veda Buddhi is something which divides people. So you have to ensure that Veda Buddhi, that vision of, that is a tendency to see division. That is what we see in Gita also. Gita also, that is seeing oneness in many. So you do that. So you have got a great task in front of you. So then at that time, then Shankaracharya accepted. And then at that time, he wanted that Kumarila Bhatta. Kumarila Bhatta was a very, very great, well-known, great scholar by that time, well-known scholar. So he wanted to go and meet Kumarila Bhatta to write Vartika for his Bhashya. Vartika again is a commentary. The commentary on, Shankaracharya has written a Bhashyam. So the same thing in some other form, in the form of verse, some more additional points if needed. And whatever has not been told will also Anukta, Durukta, there is some definition for that Vartikam also, which says whatever has been omitted, it will also be conveyed. So some sort of elaboration on this Bhashyam, and a simple elaboration on this Bhashyam. So he wanted that Kumarila Bhatta had to write commentary, or rather Vartika, not commentary, Vartikam. That is in the verse form. So he proceeded towards Prayaga, because Kumarila Bhatta was in Prayaga, now what we call Allahabad. So from Badari Kasham, he proceeded to Prayaga. All those days, we do not know how he traveled, maybe by walk, or maybe in those days, people used to travel by elephants also. We are not very sure. So anyway, mules, whatever. So from there, he traveled. Then he crossed that Vindhyavasini river. You see, Prayagam, Agat, Pratham, Jigishu. Yeah, Vindhyavasini. There are two Vindhyas. I didn't know till I saw Vindhyavasini. So crossing Vindhya means he is Vindhyamahidharena Vashamyamena Charitam Haritam Pratasthe. That is that Vindhya which was crossed by Agastya. Vindhya which was crossed by Agastya refers to not this river Vindhya alongside that Narmada, but is that Vindhyavasini, that Vindhyachala, very close to Kashi. It is about 60 kilometers from Kashi, about 63 kilometers it is said. Then there, that gentleman, he was in a very peculiar stage. You see, when he, of course, there are a few sentences, a few verses in praise of Ganga. Shankara Bhagavadpada bathed in Ganga, and then he also praised Ganga. Then thereafter, at that time, he heard one Lokavarta. While, of course, there is also, I mentioned that he also did the Tarpanam for his mother. Asmari Madhaviya Sa Puposha Dadhara. So she is the one who has given birth to me and who has raised me. So he remembered his mother when he was taking bath. That means Tarpanam. And now he is going to meet Kumarila Bhatta. So he heard news that Kumarila Bhatta was actually doing a prayaschitta, a sort of expiation for whatever wrong he had done. And what was the wrong he had done? Kumarila Bhatta, his main opponents were Buddhists in those days. So Buddhist arguments, they were not known to these people. Buddhist logic, the Buddhist logic and then Buddhist philosophy was not completely known. Of course, Buddhist ethics and Vedic ethics are almost similar. When you come to ethics, whether it is Atma Sanyama, how you have to do Mano Nigraha, how you have to get over Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, etc. They are common to all the Indian philosophies. But then the debate is only at the philosophical level, at the epistemological level. So here, you see, what was the fault of Kumarila Bhatta? Kumarila Bhatta was actually, he wanted to learn the Buddhist philosophy. So he disguised himself. So Brahmana, he will wear a shikha and all that. So like a Buddhist, he had complete mundanam. So in the guise of a Buddhist student, he went and then he learned from the biggest, topmost people in that Buddhist vihara. And then again, it so happened that one day, that story will come. So he came out and then debated with them. So that is the fault, because he learned from somebody. And whoever teaches something, he becomes your guru. So he has done Guru Droha. Not only Guru Droha, he has also done Veda Droha, because he had given up Shikha, Yajñopavitam and all that. He went and then he sat with them who were abusing Vedas. So all this Veda Droham he has done, Guru Droham, by defeating the same Gurus and all those people. So that is why, in order to expiate for all those sins, so he was standing in a heap of husk. So you see, paddy husk is there. In olden days, paddy husk, of course, even today, it can be a sort of for heating water, etc. people use in villages. So he was standing in a heap of husk right up to the neck, and then that heap was set on fire. So that slowly that fire increases and it causes a slow death to the person, causing a long period of pain. It is not an instant death which is welcomed by people. It is something which is a slow death. So it was like that. Soyam Guroha Unmatana Prasaktam. So he won Guru Droha. So because of Guru Droha, then he has entered that Tushanalam. Tushanalam is having that paddy husk, Pravishat, Eshadhiraha. So that was the background. So then he immediately rushed to him. Shankaracharya, he didn't want to lose any time. So he rushed to him. And by the time he went, already the husk was set on fire. And the fires were almost engulfing from all sides. So it was like that. So you see, why was he doing Prayashchitta? That is again a point that also he is going to say. Prayashchitta he was doing only because if he does not do Prayashchitta, he is not setting a good example for others. So he wanted to punish himself because he wanted to set an example to all other people. He may be a guru. Even if he tells one few things, he is a guru. So a Guru Droha and also Shastra Droha. So for that, he was setting an example. Though he was a very great man and nobody asked him to do Prayashchitta, he himself, Prayashchitta is something which we impose on ourselves. So that is what he did. And Buddhists, probably there was no need for Buddhists to say, come in disguise and learn Vedas, because many Brahmins, they became Buddhists. You see, Buddhists, Kumarila Bhatta had to disguise and then go and then learn the Buddhist doctrine. But then probably there was no need for Buddhists to come in disguise, because many Brahmins themselves were the students. So like Brahmin communists and Brahmin Naxalites and all these people nowadays. So they knew the Purva Paksha. They knew what all Vedas said. Only the Brahmins, they did not know what all Buddhist philosophy said. So this Kumarila Bhatta went and then he learned Buddhist logic and then Buddhist philosophy deeply from them. So Kumarila Bhatta, he was very happy to see Shankara Bhagavadpada. He had already heard about him and he asked him, and he asked his disciples. You see, even when the fire was engulfing, he was conscious of his dharma. He was conscious of his duty. So he asked his disciples to respect that yati and gave him bhiksha. So Shankaracharya, he also received their whatever respect. Shankaracharya, he also knew that that prayaschitta was something which is a part of dharma. So he did not stop. So Shankara Bhagavadpada showed his bhashyam to him. He showed his bhashyam to him because there was still time. Slowly and slowly that fire was coming. So there was still some time. So then he showed his bhashyam. Showed means probably he read out, or rather he told some points to him. So and then Kumarila Bhatta was so pleased with that. Then he requested, well, yeah, Shankaracharya wants to stop also. It's not as though he permitted him, though he knew that it was something as per karma. He also said, I am going to deliver you from all this sin. I'll take some water and then I'll do mantra, and I am capable of removing your sin. So you come out and then write bhashyam. But then Kumarila Bhatta declines. No, I don't want to do that. That will be a bad example for others. So he says, I am in a prayaschitta diksha. And not only that, I visualize about 8,000 shlokas per vartika. Ashtau sahasrani vibhanti vidvan sadvartikanam prathametra bhashye. If I want to write bhashyam on your write vartika on your bhashyam, I am visualizing about 8,000. You see the brightness of that person on listening, on hearing about this bhashyam. So visualize, oh, this will be the magnitude of that text. Aham yadisyam agruhita diksha. If I had not been in this diksha, probably I would have written. But I am in this diksha. And of course, he also says, I have been longing to see you. And you see, then he tells about his background, which I told you just now, about how he went and then how he was very much aggrieved with the Buddhist conversions, and then Tathagata Krantam Abhud Ashesham Tathagata Krantam Abhud Ashesham Sa Vaidhikodhva Viralipa Bhuva. The entire land was filled with Nastikas. The entire land was filled with people who denied God, who denied the Vedic Dharma. Vedic Dharma was very rarely seen. So there was no other way except to go in their guise, and learn. Then their strategy also, he says, Sashishya Sankha Pravishanti Rajnam Geham Tadadi Swavashe Vidhatam. The Buddhist strategy is all these bhikshus, they go in fairly large numbers, and then they go to the king, and then they convince the king first. And once the king is convinced, once the king becomes rather friendly, that is the strategy adopted even today by many people, other people. So the king is convinced, and then their strategy is, yes, Raja Madhiya Ajiram Asmadiyam. Yes, Raja is the king is our man, and then the palace is ours. So you come to our doctrine. So that is how Mata Prachara was going on. So then again, I took the risk. I took that risk, and then went there, and I had to defeat them. So I went there, and then but then it so happened that one day they were abusing Vedas in such a bad way, in such a bad manner, that involuntarily tears came out of my eyes. When involuntarily tears came out of my eyes, and they detected that I am a fake student, and then they pushed me down from a high building. Mam agrasaudha vinipata vyapatayan uchataram apramattam. Uchatarat pramattam, not apramattam. Vyapatayat uchatarat pramattam mam agrasaudhad vinipata bhiram. So when I was there, some maybe terrace or something like that, and when he was pramatta, not very alert, they pushed him down. At that time, he said, if Vedas are pramanam, if Vedas are real or authentic, then I will not die. So of course he fell down, and because he used that word if, there was some sort of element of doubt in that word if. So though he was not hurt very badly, he lost one eye in that process. So that is what he says. So now he says, no, I have to go ahead with this Tushara Anala, but I don't have the good fortune of writing Vartikam. And I know, then Shankaracharya also says, you are the very incarnation of Kumaraswamy, born to defeat the Buddhists. He says, Shrutyartha karma vimukhan sumukhan sugatan nihantum. So I know that you are that Lord Guha, Jatam Guham, Guvi Bhavantamaham Tujane. I know that you are that Guha. Guha means Kumaraswamy. So then you need not undergo all these things. But then he says, no, I will have to go ahead with this. Then you do me that mantropadesha, tat tarakam deshikavarya mahyam adishya tat brahma krutarthayetaha. So though Kumarila Bhatta also is a highly learned man, he wanted Brahmopadesha formally from a sannyasi. So he asked him, do that mantropadesha, tat tarakam mantram, tarakam deshikavarya mahyam adishya, tad brahma krutarthe. So you make me krutartha, you make me krutartha, you deliver me from this bondage, and you teach that Brahmopadesha to me. So Shankaracharya did Brahmopadesha. Brahma Upadishya Bahirantarapastamoham. Then Tarasa Abhramarga Srimandana Senalayam Sa Iyeshagantum. So Shankaracharya gave Brahmopadesham, which dispelled the bondage of the gentleman and liberated him. Then again, that is how this chapter 7 ended. But now we entered the 8th sarga. 8th sarga itself takes a few days actually. Today I will just give a small introduction to this, because I wanted to complete the 8th sarga, but then today it will not be, just not possible. We are already 8:30. Then let us see. The 8th sarga, we see that famous debate between Shankaracharya and Mandana Mishra. So Shankaracharya started from Prayaga. After leaving Kumarila Bhatta, he proceeded to a place called Mahishmati. Mahishmati, maybe I exactly do not know, so it is somewhere on the banks of Narmada. We are not sure whether it is the same as Ujjain or which is some other place other than Ujjain, but it is in central India, and it was the capital of Avanti Rajyam. So this Mandana Mishra, he went to Mahishmati, and while walking on the street, he asked somebody, Kutra alayo Mandana Panditasya, where is the house of Mandana Acharya? Then the famous shlokas which we hear. Swatah pramanam, paratah pramanam, kirangana yatra giram giranti. So yes, you will find, you could just go on this way, you will find the parrots, they will be speaking among themselves. Swatah pramanam, paratah pramanam. So is knowledge, swatah pramanam is something, knowledge is something which is directly known, is it self-evident, or has it to be validated by something else? You see, there was a debate about whether knowledge, whether what all we see with our senses and then captured with our mind, whether this knowledge is something which is directly known, or whether it has to be corroborated by some other evidence. The simplest example is you see some sort of mirage in a desert, and it initially appears as some water body. When you go near, only then you will know that it is not water body but a mirage. So the Nyaya school, that is the logicians, they say that it has to be corroborated by something. Whatever you see is something which is not correct. Pratyaksha is not enough. It has to be corroborated by something else. That is called, they say, knowledge is paratah pramanam. Paratah means from some other corroborative factor only you have to ascertain. So, but Mimamsa says swatah pramanam. Knowledge is self-evident, but if you have to say if that has to be contradicted for any reason, then paratah pramanam. Paratah pramanam only for contradiction it is accepted, but knowledge straight away we are accepting it. So there was some debate like that. Similarly, there was some debate about Halapradam karma, Halaprado ajaha, Hirangana giram giranti. So the parrots, they will also be talking about Halapradam karma. You see, Mimamsakas, they had a view. There are two level older Mimamsakas, they even rejected God. They said even karma is good enough. Karma is good enough because you do some good karma and you get the result for that. Halapradam karma. There is no need for God also. You see, Karma Siddhanta again was a very great doctrine, which was, you see, it laid a solid foundation for social morality. That is what we have to admit. The Karma Siddhanta, we say that, okay, people, we talk about karma and whatnot, but it laid a solid foundation, because Karma Siddhanta, if we see, it was accepted by, even today, by 50% of humanity. All the Indic religions, that is Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism, and Hinduism, they accept Karma Siddhanta. All the Asian religions also, that is Taoism, Japan, coming to China, Japan, and all these Southeast Asian nations, they do accept Karma Siddhanta. So almost half of the humanity accepts Karma Siddhanta. And what is this Karma Siddhanta? That is, karma has to give some fruit, and that fruit, you do some good karma, get some punyam, and then you attain some heaven, come back. Then again, your stay in that heaven is in proportion to whatever karma you have done, whatever good work, good deed you have done. And if there are some bad deeds, you are responsible for them also. So you have to bear the fruit of that karma also. So you have to come down to earth, and again you have to take the fruit of that karma also. So like that, a human being is held responsible for whatever actions he has done. So if that is so, where is the need for God? There is no need for God. But Vedanta, the later Mimamsakas, they accepted the presence of God. So Vedanta holds that Ishvara is the karma phaladata. Yes, karma is there, but Ishvara is the karma phaladata. So they say like that. And this epistemological discussion, of course, we are not seeing in this 8th Sarga. There is only discussion on Tattvamasi Vakya. This epistemological discussion about Swatah Pramanam, Bharata Pramanam, is knowledge self-evident or not, all this discussion is not there. Only in this couple of shlokas it is there. But we have to see that all these schools of Indian philosophy, there is an epistemological discussion. In fact, that is called Pramanyavada. What is Pramanam? What all we see, what we see, is it valid or not? Is it valid knowledge or not? So then, you see, Advaita Siddhanta accepts the logic of Kumarila Bhatta at the Vyavahara level. At the Vyavahara, see, Advaita Vedanta talks at two levels. One is the Paramartha level. At the highest level or absolute level, the whole universe is a manifestation in that consciousness. But at Vyavahara level, yes, there is at the Vyavahara level, there is some you, me, the Jagat, and all this differentiation is there. Vyavahare Bhattanaya. So in that Loka Vyavahara level, we accept the philosophy of Kumarila Bhatta for Loka Vyavahara. So that is what is in brief is the introduction to Mandana Mishra. So Mandana Mishra at that time so he went to Mandana Mishra's house. So Mandana Mishra at that time, he was performing Shraddha for his father, for mother, we don't know. He was performing a Shraddha. And when we perform Shraddha, we usually close all the doors and then so that there is no disturbance. Of course, there is no need to close the doors, but that time he closed his doors. So he didn't want disturbance. So the house was probably bolted from inside. So Shankaracharya, through his yogic powers, he went inside. And Shankaracharya probably was unaware of that. He was unaware of the fact that he was doing a Shraddha, but he went inside. And that irritated Mandana Mishra. So Shankaracharya also saw Vyasa and Jaimani as bhaktas. So that Mandana Mishra was also a great tapasvi. So with his powers of tapas, he had invited Tapomahimnaiva Taponidhanam sa Jaiminim Satyavati Tanujam. Jaimini and Satyavati Tanuja is Sage Vyasa. So Jaimini and Sage Vyasa, Shishya and Guru. Jaimini is the Shishya, the disciple of Sage Vyasa. So Vyasa and his disciple Jaimini both were there as bhaktas in the Shraddham. Yathavidhi Shraddha Vidhavu Nimantriya Tat Padapadman Avane Jayantam. So you see, he was also a very great tapasvi. So Shankara Bhagavadpada approached them very respectfully. They also received him. They also they know that he is Shankaracharya. So they also received him with all affection. And Vyasa, of course, he had earlier also met him. Then Mandana Mishra was irritated with the presence because of the presence of a sannyasi at that time. Then there is some sort of discussion, some sort of witty and also harsh talk between Shankaracharya and Mandana Mishra. Mandana Mishra asked Kuto Mundi, where from? Where are you from? Oh, Shevan man, why did you come here? Why you have intruded? So that is the meaning. So Shankaracharya says, Agalat Mundi. Agalat Mundi means only above the neck. So I am asking you the root. Panthaste Prachate Maya. I am asking you the root. I am asking the root. So if you are asking the root, what did the root tell you? So like that. So there is a sort of slesha. Kimaha panthaha, tvanmata munda, ityaha tathaivahi. So it went on in a rather harsh manner. Some sort of stiff, witty repartee. So in olden days, we also see that the Panditas, scholars, when they met, there was also a friendly repartee And even if were to be some barbed repartee also was there. So there was some sort of barbed repartee, we can say, between Shankaracharya and Mandana Mishra. So I am not reading all these things. There are about 15 to 20 slokas like that. Then Jaimini, so he smiled at Mandana Mishra. He said, "Oh, this gentleman is a guest. This person is a yeti. He is a very great scholar. He is a learned man. You please invite him respectfully for bhiksha." Then, so Mandana Mishra also accepted. He realized his mistake. And they said, then he said, okay, I am inviting you for bhiksha. So, atha upasamspusya jalam sa shantah sa sambhramam mandana panditopi. With all respect, he received Shankaracharya and asked him for bhiksha. Then he said, I have not come for bhiksha. I am not a person who is interested in your food. Sacha abravi samya vivada bhiksha vichan bhavat sannidhim agatosmi. I want vivada bhiksha. I want vada bhiksha. So that is, we have to debate. That is the bhiksha I want. Sa anyonya shishyatvapana pradeya nastyadara prakruta bhakta bhikshye. I am not interested in this prakruta bhiksha. Prakruta bhiksha is this food. You may be offering so many nice, delicious food items now. I am not interested in that. I am interested in this bhiksha where the panam is the bet. Anyonya shishyatva pana pradeya. So you have to offer me, you have to give me this anyonya shishyatvam. So if I get defeated, you see, I will become your student, and then I will give up this offer, this saffron robes, and I will wear white robes, and I will come to samsara. Samsara means I will become a grahastha. If you are defeated, you have to become my shishya. That is anyonya shishyatva. And he says, my only mission is to spread the message of the Upanishads. I don't have any agenda. I don't have an independent agenda. My only mission is to spread the message of this Upanishads. This knowledge which alone liberates people from samsara. Why? Why did he have that mission? That is, this is the only thing which liberates people from samsara, which solves all the differences in society. So he says, Vivada is not for panditya khyapanartham. It is not for explaining my pandityam, not explaining, projecting or declaring my pandityam. And that is something which is also prohibited for sannyasi. But sannyasi can get engaged in vada for the higher purpose of propagating dharma. It is also there. Sannyasi need not sit idle. Sannyasi has to move about for propagating dharma. So he says in 37, shloka number 37, Mama nakinchidapi dhruvam ipsitam shrutishirah patha visruti mantara. So apart from propagating the message of the Upanishads, I don't have any other mission. So he says, then there are a few slokas like that. And Mandana Mishra says, oh my dear sir, you are underestimating me. Api sahasramukhe paninamake na vijitasviti jatu pranatyayam. Even if say Adishesha comes with his 1,000 heads and then debates with me, I will not say I am defeated. So forget all that. Even in front of Adishesha, I will not say I am defeated. How can I accept you? How can I accept your path, which is against the Vedas? He says, iti nasya vihaya matam shruti sammatam munimate nipatetu aparikalpite nipatetu parikalpite. It is something, this sannyasa is something which is man-made. It is not something in the Vedas. It is not authenticated by the Vedas. How can I come to your path? So then, but he also says, but I have been longing for an opponent, because all these scholars, like a great fighter, a great pugilist. So like that, these people also want some other debater. So I have been longing for an opponent who could challenge me. So, you see, Upanata iti kuhalino mama sarvada jayamaho yamaho swayamagata. Yeah, I have been longing to have a debate, a person who would debate with me. Now I have found one. Okay, let's debate. So then, who can be the Madhyavarti? So who can be an impartial observer? That is, vadam karishyami na sandihetra. There is no doubt. I will debate with you. Atra jaya jayavunavu adita na kasyit. Who will tell about jaya and apajaya? Na kantashoshaika palo vivadu. And vivada should not be just for exhausting our kantashosha means only we talk for hours and hours and then it pains only our throat. So the argumentative Indian, as we say, this argumentation, it will not leave us kantashosha only. There should be some fruit. So then who should be the debater? That was one question. Okay, let us have the debate from tomorrow, but who should be the say mediator, Madhyavarti? So then Vyasa and Jaimini, they themselves suggested, okay, you have this Ubhaya Bharati as the Madhyavartini maybe. Vidhaya Bharyam Vidushim Sadasyam Vidhiyatam Vadakatha Sudhendra, Sudhendra, you Vidhaya Bharyam Vidushim Sadasyam. She will be the Adhyaksha. She will be the Adhyaksha. And your Bharya will be Itam Saraswati Avataratagnyau. So they knew that she was the avatar of Saraswati. Saraswati Avataratagnyau. So those Vyasa and Jaimini, they knew that she was the avatar of Saraswati. So they said, you keep her as the judge. And Shankaracharya, he has absolutely no problem. Vyasa and Jaimini, they disappeared. Having said that, probably that meal, etc., with Disha was over, and they disappeared. Then Shankara Bhagavadpada went to a nearby temple, Reva Tate Ramya Kadambasale Devalaye Avasthitavan Strudiyah. So on the Reva Tata, on the banks of Narmada, Ramya Kadambasale, there was a Kadamba trees. So there was a temple where he halted. In olden days, the temples were the places where all the people who went from outside, suppose somebody came to my village. So where will he go? He will first go to stay in the temple. So the people in the village, they usually look at the temple, whether there is anybody from outside, any atithi from outside. So that was the system in those days. So anyway, after that, now we come to the doctrinal statement of Shankaracharya. Now it is 8:40. I don't know whether we can stop now or.
Yeah, time up. We crossing the time. So, being a host, I have to take this. So thank you very much, sir. It was very interesting.
Yeah, in fact, I wanted to rush through at least the 8th chapter. But it will be. I cannot move faster. I have actually moved faster.
Yes, sure, we
So
understand
anyway,
because we have to cover 16 sargas. So we came to eighth sarga today. And the narration was very beautiful. It was very lucid. So we don't have time now to sum up. We will conclude the session here only. And I want to say thank you very much once again. In the evening, we have another session. We will meet in the evening. And we will have this. We will have this session again on next Sunday.
next Sunday I will continue from here.
Yeah.
Shankaracharya, his doctrinal statement, what is called Pratigya, and Mandana Mishra, his Pratigya. So those two things. And then at least the 8th sarga in some small detail. Sarga will take a few days itself. So, but then I will conclude it in the next session. And maybe the remaining in only one class. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Namaskar. Harihi Om Tat Sat.